So this last weekend on stream at Calling Kansas City, Olympia and Shiana, right? Am I right? Got brand new clothes. Now, these things, cool factor 10. Absolutely awesome. Good factors, probably like 4, maybe a 5. And I say that as being a huge Olympia fan. The data's there. The videos are there. I love Olympia. My Decimator build with him's pretty cool, pretty fun. But it's not good. And also, as someone who has, as an Olympia fan, repeatedly trashed how bad Golden Anvil is, we definitely need to talk about this today.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to the channel, and special shout out to all my Olympia fans out there, all 2 of you. Hey, we're in good company together. I really like this guy, or, well, I like the theory. I like the theory of him, and like I've wanted a Centurion, Gladiator, whatever, forever. And we got him, and he didn't come with a weapon. Anyway, let's not go down that path. Because we're in excite mode right now because we got brand new clothes. Olympia got brand new clothes. Every single slot you could imagine. Well, I mean, I suppose he didn't get a shield, right? But in terms of the clothing that he wears into battle, his start and play clothes, very, very importantly to start and play for the relevance of this discussion, they all follow the same formula. So look at Golden Gallia, who I have up there in front. It is a legendary specialization, which means you can have one of them in the 80 cards that you register, which makes a lot of sense because, you know, doing these, re-equipping these, should run out of sideboard space at some point, and, you know, we'll get to that. But the cool factor on this is huge because they all count as gold. Okay, so let's just rip the Band-Aid off and go right to the thing. Okay. Visit the Golden Anvil. I've hated this. So I hate this card because this card was spoiled right alongside of Visit Gold Main Estate. And you're like, wait a minute. So they were both expansion slots in Mistveil, one for Olympia, one for Victor. Betsy had one as well. But these two side by side is like, wait a minute. How does Victor get to play this and draw a card and it has go again? And Olympia just uses this whole turn to re-equip armor, assuming he's actually 1 gold, right? So the TLDR problem statement of Visit the Golden Anvil is it was a little bit competing in terms of what it was trying to do because you had to win things in order to accumulate your gold and then immediately pump the brakes, play Golden Anvil to re-equip. Losing your, you know, I use momentum loosely, but I think you see what I'm driving at, right? You had to go pseudo-aggressive or at least win hits, win wagers, make hits, you get it, to make your gold. Then you had to pump the brakes and then go defensive. So the card didn't really make a lot of sense without go again, the card didn't make a lot of sense in terms of making itself work. So this very, very, very clearly, these 4 cards very, very, very clearly like, okay, Golden Anvil is going to work. Now, these cards in and of themselves have 2 temper, which means that these 4 cards in a vacuum represent 12 block. That said, I was actually talking with, shout out to Anthony and Sean the day before I'm shooting this, but we were sitting having a beer and kind of talking about these almost immediately after they'd been spoiled. And Anthony had a good point. He's like, well, you know, you could get 12 block out of them because Olympia makes gold. I'm like, that's true. But again, if you go back to the context of these are clearly meant to Golden Anvil in, right? Or to at least played with Golden Anvil. Otherwise, why wouldn't it? My point is, if you're not using these to Golden Anvil, you may as well use other equipment because then your slot would be open anyway, right? I mean, assuming you're using temper equipment, of course, right? So these are clearly meant to block 2 and then be spent to Golden Anvil. I mean, zero question in my mind about that, right? Which is why it makes a lot of sense that they're legendary. Totally cool. So, as I mentioned, cool factor 10. Are these good or not? Again, I'm predispositioned for my strong dislike of Golden Anvil not having go again. But if the idea, the concept behind Olympia is that you're supposed to kind of be a tanky boy who then, I assume, like, throws 10 wagers, is kind of his thing, right? With, you know, the 3 7s and then his zero pump. Or you could, you know, I don't know what weapon he's supposed to run, honestly, but you've got Oldhim, and I always forget the 2, but they're the 1-3 front pumps that wager either agility or vigor, right? So he's doing that, winning the occasional gold. But fundamentally, I think this is showing us that he's meant to be tanky, defensive, throw his things. Now, I will openly admit that with his because remember his Gallia, or I should say his heavy hitters Gallia, was actually meant to basically block 2 and then stay in play, because it also had temper. It was meant to block 2 and then really help you get a wager when you needed it. And then that's why I always thought Golden Anvil was to replenish that. So that's kind of interesting how this fits in, that this Gallia will block 2 and then will re-equip his, that in theory later on, once you've earned your gold, then you could then maybe do another re-equip. But again, let's put that in context of how much sideboard space we're using here just to do that. These are 4 slots. They don't have AB, so you've got to run 3 AB slots somewhere. And then even in a vacuum, you're running, so these don't count towards that number because you would be running something anyway in terms of loadout. But to fully backfill these 4, that means you're running 4, and then you're running your 3 AB, right? I guess you don't have to run 3 AB, but if you're going to be tanky and play slower, you probably should, right? So out of the gate, you're down to 73. Okay, now that's 13 slots, fair enough. But then if you're really thinking about, are you trying to run a tanky Golden Anvil build, do you really need 2 backfills? Maybe you don't need 2 full sets of backfills, but maybe you need 1 or 2. But again, at a minimum, you're already down, right? So just the opportunity cost, I want to be very clear here. I'm not saying these are bad. I think these are super cool. And I think this is the way that you run him, because I don't know what else he's doing right now, honestly, right? But the opportunity cost that you're leaving on the table of how much sideboard space you're using to do that, I actually tried before I sat down to try and math it out, and I couldn't, because it's, how do you value sideboard space in terms of the matchups you're going to run up to? I don't know, right? Because in many cases you run, people who don't naturally, heroes who don't naturally run poppers, how do you value running a popper for the purpose of running a popper? You know what I mean? And that's why you try to get, Findalls to get the health gain out of it, right? You try to maximize that value. How do you value? I don't know is the point. But you're giving up 4 spots at basically 2 value apiece, right? Because these are 2 block. So he sits down with 8. In theory, you would be refilling it with something that blocked at least 8. But you could have sat down with those anyway. So the translation here becomes these. So again, in the context of only knowing the backfill for Olympia, these are 8 for 4 slots. So it's 2 per slot. So you have to ask yourself the question of, is that 2 value in any non-wizard match worth what I leave on the table, or leave in the deck list, not on the table? Bad pun there. Not really a pun. Bad expression there. Is the 2 value worth what I am not able to bring in terms of fungibility and flexibility to my other matches? Because again, you're going to run AB anyway, so I suppose that's irrelevant. And then at that point, Golden Anvil just becomes a blue 3 pitch. I don't know. And let me, hopefully as we're going through this, you're letting me know in the comments what your thoughts are. I don't think these are great. I think they are awesome, but I don't think they're great. But hey, let me know what you're thinking. Nothing else. Go Commando. think it's Oldhim and something the line. I don't know. Either way, should have done that research before I actually sat down to shoot this cast. And I've been playing them forever. I always just forget. They're whatever. You get it. They're there. Where was I?